Joining me now is Olympic gold medalist Dominique Dawes. She is the first African American to win an Olympic gold medal in gymnastics, and you are one of my real life heroes. I did gymnastics until I was 15 years old, and there weren't a lot of black girls in gymnastics growing up. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me on, and that definitely has changed quite a bit. As you mentioned earlier, Simone Biles dominating in the sport of gymnastics, Jordan Chiles being a part of this Olympic team, and then prior to these young girls, we had the likes of Gabby Douglas making history. So I feel very honored and very blessed.
It's so great to see that evolution. And Dominique, before we talk about your experience in the sport of gymnastics, let's talk about this USA team. So what are you most looking forward to in the team final competition?
Well, I'm so excited for these young girls to be smiling, and they're truly teammates. It's really hard for these Olympians, though. There's no one in the stands, and I couldn't imagine for any of my 3 Olympic Games that I went to in 92, 96, or 2000 to perform just in front of the judges or just in front of the coaches. Many family members and friends aren't even there in the stands. And so I do feel for these athletes. However, they are accomplishing their dream. They've sacrificed very much of their childhood for this one opportunity. And I hope they're very pleased with their performance and knowing that this is going to be the most watched Olympic Games ever and that the fans are behind them 110%.
You've talked about a lot about the sacrifices that gymnasts have to make to get to this level. And, you know, some of those sacrifices, I think people at home would assume, you know, you practice a lot, you're watching what you eat, you're making sure you're healthy. But there are other sacrifices. And you've talked about this recently because of a lot of the trouble in USA Gymnastics. Can you talk about the psychological impact on these athletes, the pressure that comes along with performing in the Olympic Games? Even Simone Biles admitted this week that the pressure is a lot in this moment.
It is too much, definitely for teenagers. It's definitely too much for a young 24-year-old even. She, though, is handling the pressure extremely well. And what I admire most about Simone Biles is not only her athleticism and her amazing talent on the floor and dominating and being generations above the rest of her competition, but I love the fact that she's speaking out and sharing her truth in hopes of changing the culture of the sport of gymnastics that is full of a great deal of verbal, physical, psychological, and even sexual abuse. Many people are aware of the scandal of Larry Nassar, the Olympic team doctor. He worked with me as well as a number of my teammates for 10 years of my childhood. And while I was not sexually abused by him, just the level of trauma that all of us went through, thinking that this man was a friend of ours and recognizing he truly was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so I love the likes of Simone Biles speaking out about changing the culture of gymnastics. And I'm doing it in my own little way by starting the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy here in the state of Maryland and hoping to open up more in the DMV area. It's all about creating an empowering and healthy gym environment for all these young girls and young boys.
I've heard you say that recently about the fact that the Larry Nassar sexual abuse scandal could happen in USA Gymnastics because of the culture. Can you elaborate on what you mean in terms of the culture of USA Gymnastics that can allow for this kind of abuse to happen for so long? I think what shocks people the most is that the decades that this was going on.
You know, it's not just USA Gymnastics, it's all the gyms. It's all the gyms in the United States of America. Gym owners, head coaches, they need to open their eyes and they need to be aware of the impact that they're making on these young athletes. Now, the majority of the gyms out there that don't have an elite training program to it, they're probably doing things in a very healthy manner. They're not demeaning the kids. It's not full of fear, intimidation, and silence. However, those programs out there that do have elite level training athletes that are training for an Olympic Games or maybe to get a college scholarship, they need to be aware of the way that they speak to young girls, the way that they treat young girls, and even the way in which they punish young girls if they're not doing things right. You shouldn't be left in the gym till late hours. You should not be kicked out of gym and you're crying and then your parents bring you back the next day. My hope is that for those that watched my docuseries, it was called Golden, the journey of USA's elite gymnasts on the road to the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. I was the executive producer of this docuseries, along with LeBron James, Maverick Carter, among a number of amazing other team members. And the reason why I wanted to be a part of this docuseries is the fact that USA Gymnastics and Peacock were willing to allow us to be transparent and to show the fans and the families of the full journey of what these young athletes have to endure on the road to possibly making an Olympic team. There's no guarantee. You don't have full control over your careers. It's a very subjective sport, a very political sport, and USA Gymnastics does have the final say in who's on this Olympic team. And so if people would watch this docuseries called Golden, it's streaming on Peacock, they would get a true understanding of what that journey looks like and the psychological toll that it does take on a number of these athletes.
I highly recommend the docuseries. It's right here on Peacock, and you can watch it. 6 episodes, and it's truly gripping because you see really what goes into becoming an elite gymnast, and you essentially sacrifice everything, and so does your family. I want to sort of leave on a positive note, though. You mentioned the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy, and you've been trying to change the culture inside of your own gym. What are some of the things that you're doing in your own gym to nurture a positive and healthy training environment, but also, you know, keeping in mind the conversation we've been having because of Naomi Osaka and others about mental health? Because gymnastics is one of those sports where it's physical, but it's a lot about the mental.
Well, the sport of gymnastics, it's very much about the people in the sport. I remember when I retired in 2000 after the Sydney Olympic Games, I distanced myself from the sport of gymnastics because I thought it was a very detrimental, very abusive culture, and I didn't want to be a part of it for very much longer. Then I realized it's not the sport. The sport is a beautiful sport. I have such a passion for the sport. It's the people in the sport that need to change. So the first thing that myself and my husband have done is hire the right people. We hire people that truly love working with kids. We hire coaches that look at every young kid that walks through our doors and they recognize how gifted and special they are. And every single kid in our gym matters. We care about inspiring each and every kid. It doesn't matter your color, your size, your aspirations, your ability, whatever it is. Every kid matters, and it shows at my facility. We're all about being compassionate, empowering, and uplifting kids, and the whole focus is on developing the whole child, physically, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, as well as socially. And I think the people that have been a part of our program, the community that's been a part of our program for the last year, they recognize the impact that we're trying to make.
I love all of that. So if it was Dominique Dawes versus Simone Biles, who do you think would win?
Oh, yeah, I don't know why people ask me this. It doesn't make sense. I think she would smoke me. She's so talented. I mean, I say all the time, I'm so thankful that I'm retired. I'm even a little nervous that my kids want to do the sport of gymnastics because she set the bar so high, but she's worked hard. You can come out of the womb with a certain level of athleticism or ability and grit, but you have to make that commitment, that sacrifice, and you have to have a little luck on your side as well. And she's amazing. She's a great young girl. I remember when I first met her, I introduced her to my 2 oldest daughters now. I have 4 children now, and she was so gracious and so kind and so wonderful with her time. And I marvel at her ability on the floor. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm more impressed with the impact that this young girl is going to make off the floor in changing the culture of the sport of gymnastics. She said in her latest interview, it's not just about gymnastics anymore. It's about changing this culture and making it healthy for the next generation.
Amen to that. Dominique Dawes, thank you so much. It really was an honor talking to you. And fun fact, my first floor music when I was 11 years old was your floor music that you used in 1992. Fun. So full circle, full circle moment for me. And so I just wanted to mention that. Thank you so much for everything that you do.